I'm joined today by Carly Reimold, who is currently in Canada. But I believe, Carly, you've actually spent much of your life in different places, haven't you?
I have indeed. Yeah. I was originally born in Germany, and when I was very young my parents moved to South Africa where I grew up. I feel like that is where my heart lies. I lived there for 25 years and then moved to Switzerland and am now in Canada after a 10-year stint in Europe. So, yeah, loving it.
And of course, you've also spent some time here in the UK, haven't you?
I have, yeah, I have family in the UK, and not much of the weather for me, but but it is a great place as well to see.
So you're
I'm very
currently
much a travel person, yeah.
you're currently based in Calgary in Canada. I mean, how is your weather? I mean, talking right now, what sort of weather would I expect where you are?
Yeah, so we have just gone into spring. We had spring equinox on the weekend, which is fantastic. Today it's around about, I would say, we started with -2 Celsius and now it's 8 Celsius. And funnily enough, it's supposed to snow again today. So Calgary is very much known for its, having four seasons in one day, which is interesting for sure.
Rather than us getting one season all year here in
Yeah,
Britain.
you
And
never know.
what about winter in your area? And what does winter look like for you?
So having lived in Europe, I'm used to snow. But here in Calgary and Canada in general, it can dip very far into the -30 degrees Celsius, which is eye-opening to say, least. I do tend to love it though, because I'm very much a homebody, and I love, just lying on the couch with my laptop and seeing the snow outside. It's incredibly cozy, and I think it does a lot for the soul as well. So it's a good feeling, for me at least.
So I'd like to talk to you today about your business. You are the owner of Naturally Thriving You. So please tell me a little bit about your business, what it's all about, and some of the different things that you do.
Yeah, for sure. I started Naturally Thriving You, I want to say around 5 years ago, and it's definitely grown over time. Originally, I started out as a DoTerra wellness advocate and a change advocate, so using natural tools to help support the body and the well-being, energetically and naturally, of course. And my business, Naturally Thriving You, has really grown into a platform for helping others thrive holistically. I have a various, like, different amounts of things that I provide, in a healing perspective. So I work with individuals and businesses to help themselves and employees find, health and motivation and their drive to connect with their goals that they're trying to achieve. And we do this through different techniques and practices.
What different practices do you specialize in then?
So I specialize in quantum energy healing, which is a unique modality in rebalancing and restoring energy within the body. I work a lot with the transpersonal self. So what that means for me is your mind, body, emotions, and energy or spirit. And we'll do things like, I have a modality called BTMI, which is body thought memory integration. So through a range of questions, we will tap into your subconscious to see what's kind of lying there untouched or hasn't been
Hmm.
touched for a while. And then we'll reshift that within the body, the energy within the body, working with the chakras, working with energy flow, color therapy, a lot of breathe work and meditation. So it's a lot of fun, because when you work with colors, you can really tap into so many different things.
That's brilliant, and it fascinates me the different journeys people have taken to get to where they are today. So, what triggered your journey into the health and well-being business then?
Yeah, it's been a long journey, and I'm by far not through it. I love, growing in this modality and in my own spirituality. When I grew up, my dad is actually a professor in meteorology, as in he studies meteorites, minerals, gemstones, things like that. And so I've had that science element around me since I was very, very young, but never really wanted to go into academics. So kind of, that was a sideline. And when I was living in Europe, my husband and I, my then boyfriend, I guess, but he's now my husband. We ended up having a young dog together. And at 15 months, she passed away. And we didn't know why. The vets couldn't really find, what was wrong with her. And within a week, she had left us. And it turned out that she had a tumor behind her heart that was the size of pretty much my fist. And it was traumatic. It was, very much a grieving process that my husband and I both went through, in a very different way. But I started, questioning, why would this happen? She was 15 months old. Why would the universe or whomever, why would they take her? And it was very difficult. And through this, I started, looking for ways to come out of my grieving process. I have a friend in South Africa who reached out to me, a very close friend who does Reiki. And she suggested I try using oils and crystals with meditation to just try and connect with myself a little bit more and see what's coming up that needs healing. And that's what I did. I ended up, diving into myself, as in, like connecting with my inner being and what was sitting there. And through this grieving process, I had so many other traumatic experiences from when I was a young child come up that I was able to work through. And this catapulted me into my own spirituality and my own spiritual journey, because now I was like, oh my gosh, my eyes are open. I need to know more. That prompted me to start studying. I have my PhD in quantum energy healing as well. I studied through the IMHS, which is the Institute for Metaphysical and Humanistic Science. And it's just opened up so many doors. So it's been an incredible journey, a painful one in some parts, but I feel forever blessed and grateful for having my eyes opened up, and I'm just out to help as many people now as possible.
It fascinates me that grief, deep grief, is for so many people, at the same time as being a huge personal tragedy, it also is very often a real eye-opening moment. And it really, if you can seize it as an opportunity, it can really open doors to sort of new levels of development. I've got my own experiences in bereavement, which I'm not going to go into today because it would take away from your story, but I really see how that can come about. And it does seem that death is a strange thing. Sometimes you can never prepare for death. You can never really accept it, but sometimes it's harder to accept it in the circumstances than on other occasions, I think. And it can really bring about a pivotal moment, can't it?
Yeah.
Well, on that subject of bereavement and that kind of thing, what's your experience of the last 12 months and the whole coronavirus situation been?
It's been definitely, once again, eye-opening as well. Whenever someone asks me my opinion or my view of the past 12 months, I have these wonderful images that came out, these pictures of, the deer and the animals that were like in Times Square in New York, and, how, wildlife kind of shifted into spaces that humans occupy, if we can call it that, in inverted commas. So I feel that for many there has been sadness and loss and bereavement, as you mentioned. But in the same breath, I feel like there are many people that have seen this as an opportunity for growth, a time to reconnect with themselves, with their family, although not being able to see them in person necessarily, but we've had these opportunities to shift our own gears. And I think a lot of us have had some introspection going on. So for me, I think it's been a blessing. I have been able to dive deeply into my own business. I have been able to reconnect with some family and friends, overseas, that I didn't before, because now Zoom is a thing. And not that it wasn't before, but you know what I mean. So for those that have experienced sadness in this time, my heart is very open for them, and I hold space for them. And in the same breath, I hope that we can just, take this time to still give love to, those struggling with what is going on. So
I think the key is to see the opportunity, to see the positivity, and to look to the future, isn't it? We must look to the future and find strength. And in terms of your area, has it been hit very hard by coronavirus? Is it something that's been very noticeable, or have you been rather lucky?
I think everywhere's been hit hard in its own regards. It's relative. I do think that I'm very active on social media, so I do see a lot of people being opinionated about things, like, and being able to voice their opinions. I live on a farm, so in that regard, I am happy to have fresh air around me, and my husband and I have really just been diving into health and well-being, essentially. But when I think of the people that are in Calgary downtown, people that live in apartment blocks and buildings, a lot of them have been feeling very closed off, because you're literally in your tiny four walls. So it's been interesting. I think living in this part of the world, Calgary sits within the province of Alberta, and it's a very opinionated area, in a lot of ways old school in some regards, conservative. So it has brought out some not so lovely comments towards people, I guess, but we're all just doing our best. So.
And I think sometimes opinion is driven by people trying as well to find their own understanding of the situation, isn't it? Because it's a situation nobody's ever experienced before. It is difficult, but I think ultimately everybody is trying to seek their own answers, aren't they, in their own different ways. As somebody who works obviously in the helping professions, as somebody whose business is based on helping people to heal, helping people to be spiritually and mindful in their body as well, to sort of seek comfort, to seek health. What do you do yourself to look after your own self-care?
So self-care for me is a really incredibly important part of my day. I actually have a list of non-negotiables, in a sense of things that I, really do have to and strive to achieve throughout the day. So I really try and wake up between 5 and 5:30, or beating the sun up. And meditation is my first go-to in that sense. I'm a huge believer in not having to meditate for hours on end. If you do it for 5 to 10 minutes, that's fine as well. So that has definitely become a key part of my routine. Spending time with my young dog and my husband are also super important for my self-work. And the oils and supplements that I use are also a key element to my health regime. So those are definitely on the top of my list.
I mean, you mentioned with meditation that it doesn't have to be a really prolonged thing, and I think the emphasis there is on quality, isn't it, rather than quantity? Having really going deep and finding quality in what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, I think often people feel under pressure when it comes to meditation. Often have clients come to me and say, well, I just don't know how to focus, or I don't know how to sit still. And, when it comes to putting yourself under pressure, you're not helping yourself in, getting, let's call it getting the work done, getting the meditation in. And that's why I say, if you can just sit quietly with your eyes closed, if it means, putting some quiet nature sounds on, that in itself is just bringing your body instantly into a calmer state. And that is what you really are achieving or wanting to achieve. So, yeah.
So it's really a case of finding what works for you in terms of getting into that meditative state, isn't it? For me, walking in nature is tremendously beneficial. I find that to be a perfect state where I can get into a meditation. You talked about the non-negotiables, which is something I find really interesting, especially from the perspective, of course, of relationships, because sometimes it can be very hard to balance up your own self-care needs and, of course, to balance your relationship as well. If you wouldn't mind sharing, I mean, do you share these non-negotiables with your partner, and do you have some sort of agreement that these are my non-negotiables and I will do these?
So he knows very well that I'm a list person. So that comes into creating a list for myself of what my non-negotiables are. I try to keep them 5 for my personal self-care, and then 5 for my business. So 10 in total. So he's very much aware of what goes into that. And when it comes to creating your own non-negotiables list, I think it's important for everyone to realize that, what you do and what I do, will be very different. It's just important to connect with what you think is important for this very moment in your life, that will bring you forward, bring you value, bring you growth. So, whether you're, with a partner or without, I would definitely share it, because, keeping open communication about your growth is not only important for yourself, but for your partnership.
You mentioned that one of your non-negotiables is your meditation. I'd love to be able to share with the audience. What does that look like? As a sort of a written non-negotiable, what does that look like? Do you have a sort of a particular statement? Something like an affirmation, that sort of thing, that you work to?
So the non-negotiable in the sense of meditation is that I really strive to do it every single day. Meditation is a key element to de-stressing for myself. So I worked in corporate sales for over 13 years. So the hustle and bustle is very much aware, like a thing that I know. When it comes to meditation in the mornings for me, what I will often do is, obviously, when the house is quiet, husband is still sleeping, puppy is still sleeping. I put the lights down. So if it's, before the sun comes up, I keep the lights down, maybe light a candle, just bringing about some, spiritual fire energy. I will often choose a crystal just to work with in collaboration, depending on what I'm feeling in that moment as an intention to be setting. I will choose an oil intuitively for that same intention, and just close my eyes and start breathing in a natural way, but slightly increased, because I feel like when you focus in on your breathing, it's easier to focus on the meditation. And often people say it's a contradictory statement, meditation and focus, but you do want to focus in on the quiet, and breathing definitely helps there.
And certainly something I've worked with various participants is, for those who struggle with meditation, beginning with breathing classes can be a really good step towards achieving meditation, as you've said, and it allows you something to progress from and to get into that mindset, doesn't it?
Very much.
So where do you see the future of your business, your practice, and what sort of things do you see developing over the next 12 months and beyond?
Mhm. So I think, coming back to your comment from earlier about what's been happening in the last 12 months, something that I have seen here in Calgary that has really spoken to my heart is in the retail space and in the business space, I guess, restaurants and retail, how the employees are struggling with mental health. And I think very often in that space, people in general forget that these individuals are really trying to work hard. Some of them have lost their jobs. So for me, in my business, Naturally Thriving You, I'm placing an intentional focus on the retail and restaurant space, reaching out to business owners, as well as individuals, seeing how we can collaborate on bringing more of a mental health support system to these individuals. So that's really what I'm working on right now.
And again, that ties in with what you said before about seeing the opportunity for these businesses and individuals in this, isn't it? It's
Mhm.
essentially from darkness comes light, doesn't it? And I think, what you're doing seems to really embrace that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff, and I really look forward to watching how your business grows in the future. What would you say to anybody wanting to learn more, in particular, about your quantum energy healing? Because it's something that's perhaps certainly in the UK less familiar. What would you say to anybody wanting to find out more about this?
Yeah, for sure. And to be honest with you, I think it isn't very well known globally, in a sense. When I decided to start studying quantum energy healing, it was a choice between Reiki and quantum energy healing. And I decided that, everything around us is energy. And having a little bit of a sciencey element to my youth, with my dad, and having science in my life, and then with my spiritual, call it awakening, connecting with my spiritual side, the metaphysical. I wanted to learn more about the connection. So quantum, we know that we're all made up of, there's atoms and molecules, and then we start going deeper and deeper and start looking at really tiny particles. And without getting into sciencey vibes, I think it's really important for us to realize as humans that, we are a super tiny speck in this huge, ginormous universe, this platform around us, this reality around us. So I loved my studying with IMHS, so they can gladly have a look for more information there. I am doing a range of different courses and mentorship programs as well to help individuals connect with that side of the energy healing modality. So yeah, there's lots of information out there.
And just to wrap up then, where can listeners or viewers find you online?
Thriving You. I also have a private group for my clients within the doTERRA space. And my website is naturallythrivingyou.com. They can find all of my current courses on there, events coming up. I'm doing online as well as hopefully soon in-person events. And I also have a range of products that I've made myself that can aid with their healing journey.
As and when circumstances allow it, I know you do sometimes travel to the UK. It would be lovely to collaborate with you and to arrange some kind of workshop with you at some point in the future when we can obviously meet in person, and of course when international travel does become something we can do again. But I'd love to, extend an invitation to you to come and work with Motivate Me and, arrange some workshops perhaps for people to actually see firsthand some of what you do. That would be fantastic to make happen.
Oh,
Carly,
I'd love that.
thank you ever so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I hope to speak to you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. And to anybody who is interested in knowing more, please feel free to reach out anytime.